If you don't understand lighting and how it works, you will never be able to create good renders and always gonna be frustrated with your work. So this video is a masterclass in lighting for beginners in Blender. I'll show you how to take one or two lights, very simple model, very simple background, and how to create an amazing cinematic render in Blender. Let's get started. Okay, so first let's talk about our scene, right? We have a very simple model here in the middle, which is just like an alien egg, right? We have this elongated sphere. We got these two cuts on the sides, and we got this kind of like a cut in the middle. And the design is really interesting. It's very simple, but it's kind of cool because we have these kind of wing-like structures on the side, and we have this circular element here offset to the bottom. So it's a really nice, you know, kind of a very simple but very nice sort of a design. Now, the background is super simple as well, okay? It's just a plane which was extended and pulled upwards, and then I created a bevel here, and that's it. We call this background an infinite background because it sort of like it dissipates into the background seamlessly, right? You can also manipulate with it, which I'm gonna show you in a minute, and it creates amazing effects. I'll show you. So the camera here is, if I click on the camera and go here to camera icon, you see the camera is at 250 millimeters. Now that's a really long lens. Now a long lens, what it's going to do, it's going to bring you closer to your subject and it's going to compress it. It's going to compress the perspective, right? Which is why this egg appears almost orthographic. Now if I went with a wide angle lens, you know, everything would be distorted and kind of curving upwards or downwards, right? So I prefer to work personally with long lenses because it creates this kind of like an intimacy of a scene, right? It isolates everything and creates a very intimate scene, and I really, really like that, okay? That's my thing. Now, let me just extend this background a bit here. So GG and C and move it here. So it's going to be, there we go. We want to fill the camera view with the background. So that's really important, right? Let's go to render view, and I'm going to show you 4 different light setups, okay? First of all, I'm going to show you an incorrect light setup. So let's light it from the front. You know when you are driving a car and you get these beams shining in front of, you know, the car and everything appears very flat? That's what the front light's gonna do, okay? If you align your light with a camera lens, just like in a compact flash camera, you'll always get these flat faces. There's no dimension, no, you know, no drama, no shadows. Everything is flat because the light falls directly straight, right, at the straight angle, and there's just no, you know, no angle of light, so light doesn't create any shadows, right? So this is exactly what happens here. It's very flat. Look at this. This yo-yo almost looks like a poster, right? There's no dimension to it. It's very little dimension to it, especially that the light is really large, and the larger the light source, the softer the shadow is gonna be, because the light's going to envelop, kind of like hug the entire object. Think about it, like when you're outside, it's sunny, although sun is huge, relatively to the earth it's kind of small, so on the sky it appears like a small disk, so it's going to create really harsh shadows. But when you have overcast, the entire sky becomes like a massive softbox, which is why shadows are so you know, so calm and so almost invisible, right? So that's what this light is doing here. And the larger the light's gonna be, the softer and the more mellow and boring this image is gonna become. If I'm gonna make it smaller, it's gonna be a little bit more aggressive. Do you see what I mean? So that's a kind of light I would avoid, because unless you're shooting high fashion photography and you really know what the fuck you're doing, it's gonna look awful, okay? Now, look what happens when I'm gonna switch it to a top light. Okay, so that's a light from the top. Look how interesting this looks. There's a very mellow highlight at the top, and the bottom is contrasting with the light top. You see this kind of like a disc of a shadow underneath the egg, because the light is being cast from the top, and the sides of this egg, you know, the whole circumference is casting shadow on the bottom. So you got this beautiful circular shadow on the bottom, which kind of offsets this light top of the egg. So you got already very interesting dynamic between these two. Then you got these shadows. You got shadows clearly here. You can see that the egg is curving on the top. You know, you can see it's curving on the bottom. You got this ambient occlusion shadow on the bottom here. You have shadows here in this element on the bottom, here and here. So this looks really interesting. Also, look what happened to the background, right? Background is black and kind of really dark here, and suddenly becomes brighter and then dissipates into the background, right? So when the background becomes darker here on the top, the egg becomes brighter. You got this beautiful outline of the egg being carved by the background. You got this kind of like a, you know, bottom shadow underneath. It's the same fucking light, right? The only thing I did is I moved it from this position to this position. That's it. Okay, that's the difference, right? So watch this. This light is here and is slightly behind the egg as well, right? Slightly behind it. And if I'm going to switch back to this light, see that light is here. And these are the same lights, the same strength, everything's identical. They just positioned differently, okay? So that's how much of a difference it will make when you're going to move the light. Now, why this light looks so amazing, okay? Look, the trick to good lighting, first of all, is to create an angle between the lens and the light. So in this case, lens is pointing here, right? Horizontally. And the light is falling down at 90 degrees, which is why we have this 90 degrees angle between the direction of light and direction of the lens. That's what's creating these beautiful, you know, highlights and shadows, okay? So the trick here is to misalign the light direction with the lens direction. And you can do it either on the same lane. So if I had this light here, let me just switch back, right? And I took this light and rotated it, you know, around this egg. So I'm going to, you know, rotate this around the cursor. Watch this, RZ, and I'm going to move it. Watch what happens. Now I'm misaligning this light with camera, you know, direction. And you see, that's much more interesting. It's not great, but it's much more interesting, right? Because now we got the side shadow, 45 degrees shadow. If I keep going with this, right, it's going to get more and more interesting. Look at this, right? See what I mean? So the trick is to misalign the light with the camera angle, right? Now, this is a backlight. So this is a light behind the egg, which means it's much further behind, and it's actually highlighting the background. And the background, the light bounces back and shines back into the camera. But since the egg obscures the light, you only see the silhouette. So this is very interesting. Now watch what happens when I'm gonna add one accent to this scene, right? One simple accent, boom. Check this out. Now I got one warm accent in the whole scene, right? Because, you know, the background is actually not gray. This is not a default gray color. I changed the background to slightly cyanish, right? So the background ambient light is cyanish, whereas this is the only warm point in the whole image. So you're going to be drawn to it like a, you know, like a bee to the honey, okay? Immediately, right? Instantly. And this is going to create this kind of a layering of lights. You got light, dark, and then boom, something really warm, okay? So that looks much more sinister. There's some kind of an anticipation, you know, some kind of a drama in here. And you just edit one simple element. And this is just, a, you know, a ball with an emissive light. That's it, okay? It's just a small ball with an emissive light. I'm going to show you one more light setup, okay? Check this out. This is a side light setup. So we got symmetrical lights shining from both sides. They're not canceling one another because the yo-yo effect of this, you know, of this egg is actually creating like a division in between. So you see that here, this shadow, it's actually creating a ridge. So you got left side and you got right side. So you got a perfectly symmetrical image, right? But it's not boring, it's interesting. You got these highlights, you got the shadow in the middle, which spills down and then creates a highlight here in the bottom because the light bounces back from the background, right? Because background bounces the light back. And then you got this beautiful, you know, shadow here in the bottom, right? Ambient occlusion shadow here in the bottom. So this also creates an interesting shape and a different feeling. You could also pop this accent, also gonna look very beautiful, very classy, very simple, but very interesting, right? Looks like a, you know, announcement of some new stuff from Apple, you know. Anyway, so that's the scene. Now, how to make this more interesting? Well, let's go to here and I'll show you. So what I've done here, right, is I moved this egg to the left. I kept the top light. You see there's a top light in here, right? It's on the one light, okay? And this light is massive. It's actually quite large, so it shines, you know, on the entire background here. But the main concentration of the light is here, yeah? So it's offset to the left a little bit. So it's offset, right? So it's kind of, the weight of the image is moving a bit to the left. There's a lot of warmth in here because of this accent, right? I'm going to nuke these elements so you can see. But this is balanced and off-weight by this human, because we're going to always go to human figures, right? We're going to be drawn to them. And even if it's small or tiny, doesn't matter. We're going to always, you know, see them. And this human is a bit more contrasty than this egg, but the egg has this, you know, warm accent. So they perfectly balance one another, right? And you got this beautiful negative space of nothingness in between them, which creates this kind of like an alien-like scene, you know, like a really sort of like a almost menacing, but very peaceful at the same time, right? And look at the background, right? The background, because it's an infinite background and curves upwards, it creates this kind of a mellow transition of this light dissipating to the top, and top is getting darker and darker, right? So you got this beam of light in the middle when you're supposed to be focusing, which is on a bottom third of the image, so below the middle of the image, so it's offset down. The egg is offset left, the human is offset right, and there's a beautiful space in between them. Do you see that? And that's all created with one light. Now this human has another light on him, and this light is quite clever, because what I've done here is I created something that's called light linking. So if I go here to light linking, I basically drag this plane. So I clicked here, went here, and opened the shading, went to light linking, and drag the plane from the background, which is, where is it? Let me just find it here for you. There we go, this one. I literally dragged it in to this window and untick this. So what it does, it removes this light effect from the plane. Why? If I keep this is way too bright, okay? Way too bright. It doesn't really do what I want it to do. It draws an attention in a way that I'm not really satisfied with, okay? This is far better, right? Because the human is highlighted, right? But my background is left alone. Now, what you could do, you could create another light that's going to cast a little bit more light on top of the human and remove the human from the equation. So you can have two lights. One of them going to be spilling on the background, and the other one's going to be highlighting the human. Do you see what I mean? So it's a very simple tool, but very powerful. They added this to Blender recently. I think it was 4.5 or something. I don't remember, but it's a very good addition. The light linking is very powerful. And I think I actually have a video on this one. Anyway, so that's the scene. Now, this scene, I actually rendered it 3 times. And I got 3 different renders I want to show you, and I want to discuss them with you, all right? So let's go here, and let me just open them. Now look, if you really want to master lighting, composition, and design in Blender, or in 3D in general, I really recommend you highly our course called Rendering University. This thing goes really deep into lighting, composition, scene building, compositing in Blender. There are 2 or 3 practical examples. One of them is really massive. We built the whole scene with a ship inside of like a showroom, with people inside and, you know, lighting outside, inside. It's really complex and it's a lot of fun. But this course also contains a lot of videos on, you know, lighting, composition, design, etc. And I'm packing 25 years of my personal experience as an artist into that course. So this course is really amazing, and it's going to teach you a lot about lighting, composition, and everything you need to know in order to create not just good renders, but also amazing design, because all these things are connected, okay? The course is called Rendering University. You can get it on our website. The link is in the video description. Right, so first we had this very simple image. By the way, these are all edited in Photoshop. I did some smoke, But it's very simple, right? But look how cool this looks. I did a bit of color, a bit of smoke, a bit of vignette, and I created a really, really impactful image. And this is just 5 minutes edit, okay? Really simple, right? Nothing fancy. What you want to do is you want to create some atmosphere, right? But this is a really simple image, you know, the egg is in the middle, it's perfectly symmetrical, the whole image is symmetrical, and you know, this could work, but we can do this better, okay? So next stage, what I've done is I edit a human. Now the human is a cool touch, but right now that human has one problem, right? It's balancing the egg on the right hand side, but we have nothing to balance it off on the left hand side, okay? So to do that, I created this project 7 text. Now look how amazing this looks, okay? We got this human on the right hand side, which is really contrasty, so you can really see him, right? But also this is very warm, so you're gonna be looking there immediately as well. So you're gonna be bouncing between these two, but you will not be able to help yourself noticing this massive number 7. We are drawn to text, drawn to numbers. And this is a little bit less pronounced than the human in terms of contrast. Is, you know, a bit brighter, so it will not pull that much of attention, but it's much bigger. However, it's in a corner, right? And the human is not. So we get this beautiful negative space here, but because this human is so contrast, if you scroll this, you know, zoom this out, you see that the human is the most visible in terms of contrast figure in this image or element, right? So because it's so heavy visually, even though it's tiny, I didn't move him too far away to the right because he'll be, you know, kind of tipping the scale too much to the right, okay? And I off-balanced him by this project 7 in the top left, and then we got this massive X symmetrical in the middle with this, you know, amazing warm accent. That is a perfect composition, right? We got this smoke, we got the light concentrated in the middle, we got the vignette, beautiful distribution of this light, kind of dissipation to the top, and you know, got these two highlights on the side, then shadow in the middle. Absolutely superb, yeah. And this is how little you need in order to create a really good image. You don't need much. The less the better, okay? Remember, less is more, right? So, you know, the less you put into the image, especially when you don't know what you're doing, the better. Start simple, okay? Because it's very difficult to manipulate with 4, 5, 6 lights. Start with 1, okay? Or 2. And when you master that, move forward, right? Now I got one more image, right? Which is, where is it? Which is this one. That's an interesting one as well. I moved this egg to the left, right? And I cast a light from the top. And this one is really cool because watch this. The light is actually wrapping around the right side of this egg, which means it's pointing to the right side. So the egg is pulling you inside of the image, right? Then you go inside this brightest point in here, in between, like a glow. And then when the glow starts dissipating, it's kind of, you know, ending with the human pointing back at the egg. But the egg is also facing the human, so you're kind of locked permanently in this image. The human's silhouette isn't super dark, but it's pretty dark. It's balanced by the shadow here on the left, right? And you got this amazing negative space here. Don't be afraid of negative spaces, all right? Negative spaces, if used correctly, can be very, very powerful. And this is a, you know, perfect example of how to use negative space in a powerful way. But it's just one light, tiny light on the human, emission in here, that's it. That's the whole image, right? So there you go, that's how simple it is. Now let me show you something really interesting, right? Let me go back here and I want to show you something cool. So let's go back to this top light, okay? Let me turn this off, right? Now watch this, right? I'm going to move this background back and forth towards and away from the camera. So I'm going to be moving it on the, here, on the y-axis, right? Like this, okay? So watch what's going to happen. I'm going to turn everything off so you can see that, right? Watch. GY and watch. Look how the light changes. Look, watch. Look how cool this looks. Very different feel, you see that? I just moved the background. I didn't do anything else. So when you're adjusting something in your scene, don't move everything, just move one thing, okay? Just try one thing, move it, try another thing. Don't move the camera. When you find a really good angle for the camera, leave it, don't touch it, okay? Move the light, move the scene, move the object, change the matte, okay? Play with that. But usually what I do, I set the camera to an angle I want, and then I adjust everything else to the camera, right? So the lighting, the decals, the details, sometimes I add stuff, remove stuff, move stuff, you know. I even move or remove decals or details, because if they don't fit from a specific angle, I have to move them. So sometimes, you know, what you need in order to create a really, really dramatic effect, all you need to do is just move a background. If I'm gonna go Control Z and move it back, right? See what I mean? Look at the difference, right? They're both good, they're just different. So it depends on what you want, right? What you want to achieve. So play with it, you know, and you're gonna be good to go. So that's how easy it is to create cinematic lighting in Blender. You don't need much, you need one light, maybe two. Very simple scene, very simple model. And then you just have to try things until you're gonna work, okay? Now listen, I got a really cool video if you wanna learn more. And in this video, I'm gonna show you a bit more complex setup with a more complex background and more lights. So if you're interested, check this video next.